It says I'm live. I was watching that clock tick down, and all of a sudden it said live in zero. That means now. Uh-oh. There we go. Better make that be quiet. Got a monitor on today. All righty. Hi there, and welcome to this day in history for February 1st. February 1st is the 32nd day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, with 333 days remaining to the end of the year, except for leap years when there are 334 days remaining to the end of the year. Today's word is ratify. You might remember that yesterday we came across the word ratification, and it looked like a good word to explore, so here we go. We'll start by seeing that ratify is a verb that means to confirm, establish, settle conclusively, or accept and sanction as something done by an agent or a representative to confirm as a valid act or procedure. That said, ratification is a noun that means the act of ratifying, the state of being ratified, confirmation, sanction. The word ratification has a couple of slightly more complex legal definitions, but that basically have to do with the act of ratifying and only in certain specific conditions. Now, I have a question for you. As you may have noticed, sometimes I get these episodes recorded, edited, and uploaded the night before for release at about now. Could schedule them for release about now. And sometimes I read them live, like I'm doing today, like I did yesterday. On the one hand, with recorded episodes, we can make titles with words along the bottom and add pictures and graphics, do outtakes and music. On the other hand, the live episodes are more immediate, live, personal. You get to experience my mistakes with me, warts and all, as they say. I know some folks love the outtakes. Others love the more personal feeling of the lives, even if they're watching them later in replays. So I'm going to ask you, tell me in the comments, and comments are turned on during this live chat for once. Usually I keep the comments off during the live, but tell me, whether you're viewing live or later, what do you prefer? What do you think? Do you prefer the live episodes, or do you prefer the recorded and edited ones with the graphics and the outtakes and the music? Please let me know. Alrighty then, I'd like to take a moment now to mention that links to my research are included in the show notes. Ask you to go ahead and click that like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let's see where we are. Remember that you can share this video with email or in your social media, and there is a link in the show notes to my This Day in History playlist, and I'll put a link up in the iCards there. Let's see here. All righty, I guess we're ready to proceed. So now we're going to start way back in the way back, all the way back to 1327. That's 694 years ago, when Edward III, also known as Edward of Windsor, he was about 14 years old at the time, and he was crowned King of England. My goodness, what 14-year-old boy. I would love to be king. Of course, he himself wasn't fully in charge quite yet. You know, his mother, Isabella of France, and her boyfriend, Roger Mortimer, would serve as regents, which means they were actually running things while fronting Edward III as king. And I get the feeling they would have liked to have continued this arrangement for a good bit longer than they did. But when Edward III was 17, he rose up against Roger Mortimer, kicked him out, and began running the country himself. Now, one might ask, how and why does a queen and her boyfriend install a 14-year-old boy as king? Well, apparently his father, King Edward II, was a hot mess personally, and a lousy king besides that. At least a lot of people in that time sure seem to have thought so. People in that time seemed to think so. So Isabella had Edward II deposed in what one might think of as sort of a 14th century divorce, where she gets the kid, the house, all the castles, and the kingdom. Of course, there's a lot more to that story, but we're here today to talk about February 1st, and that is the day in 1327 when Edward III was crowned king at the age of 14. Seems like Edward III was fairly successful for most of his reign and reigned until his death in 1377 at the age of 64. France declared war on the United Kingdom and the Netherlands on February 1st, 1793. This was part of the French Revolutionary Wars, which resulted from the French Revolution, which had started almost 4 years earlier as the government of France underwent some significant growing pains and major upheavals, first establishing a constitutional monarchy and then abolishing the monarchy, executing Louis XVI and his wife, Queen Let Them Eat Cake, Marie Antoinette. All this fracas and upheaval was, of course, disturbing to their neighbors there in Europe. And as with the previous item, there is a lot more to this story, but that's kind of the background to France declaring war on the United Kingdom and Netherlands on February 1st, 1793. Slavery was abolished in Mauritius on February 1st, 1835. Now, when we're not doing a recorded session where I can pop a graphic on the screen, sometimes I remember to print a graphic. Mauritius is a small island. It's right there, a little small island out in the Indian Ocean, about 600 miles east of Madagascar. Let's see if I can point that out any better at all. Right out there. It's a little bitty island. There's several little islands out there, and Mauritius is one of them. And Wikipedia says it's about 1,200 miles off the African continent. Anyway, slavery was abolished there on this day in 1835. Now, in the war between the states back in the 1860s, Texas seceded from the Union on February 1st, 1861. And yesterday we mentioned that Congress passed the 13th Amendment. And on this day, February 1st, 1865, President Lincoln signed the 13th Amendment. And just to recap, this is the one that abolished slavery in the United States, abolished slavery and involuntary servitude except as punishment for a crime. This is the birthday. This is the birthday of a man named Eric Adolph von Willenbrand, born February 1st, 1870. He was a Finnish doctor, as in from Finland. He's from Finland. He made major contributions to hematology, which is the study of blood and diseases of blood. And von Willebrand disease, which is a hereditary blood clotting disorder, and von Willebrand factor are named after him. Von Willebrand factor, by the way, is a specific protein in the blood that has to do with the blood's ability to clot properly and appropriately. Like, for instance, you want it to clot if you've nicked your finger on a paper cut and you want it to stop bleeding. You need to be able to clot up and stop that bleeding, but you don't want it to clot so much that you form clots that make you sick, gum things up like heart attacks and strokes and stuff. It's got to be a balance there. And von Willebrand factor has to do with that. That is what von Willebrand factor is about. And in addition, Dr. von Willebrand also researched metabolism, obesity, and gout, and was one of the first Finnish physicians to use insulin to treat diabetic coma. Dr. von Willebrand lived to the age of 79. The Oxford English Dictionary, also known as the OED, is a huge 20-volume work that not only serves as a dictionary, but also traces the historical development of the English language. Wouldn't that be interesting and fun to have handy for the word of the day? I'll have to rely on the internet for now, though. 20 volumes is a lot of books. Anyway, the first volume of the Oxford English Dictionary, A to A-N-T, was published on February 1st, 1884. Thomas A. Edison finished the construction of the first motion picture studio, known as the Black Maria, in West Orange, New Jersey, on February 1st, 1893. It was covered with tar paper and had a retractable roof, and is reported to have been small, tight, cramped workspace, such that it reminded the guys that worked there of a certain type of police van, what we might call a paddy wagon. There were also some that have been nicknamed Black Marias, that were usually painted black or dark blue. We're not exactly sure where the term Black Maria came from to nickname the police vans that, but that's what they nicknamed this studio of Edison's, the Black Maria. Edison's original Black Maria was torn down after he built a new studio in New York City, but a replica has since been rebuilt as a National Historic Site there in West Orange, New Jersey, and it's maintained by the National Park Service. My goodness, the things one finds when researching this day in history. This is the birthday of a woman named Dr. Leila Denmark, born February 1st, 1898. Dr. Denmark was a pediatrician in Atlanta, Georgia. And I think most of you know that a pediatrician is the doctor who takes care of children. She was a pioneering female doctor, medical researcher, and outspoken voice in the pediatric community. And look here, she was the world's oldest practicing pediatrician until her retirement in 2001 at the age of 103. She's credited as a co-developer of the pertussis whooping cough vaccine. She lived to be what we call a supercentenarian. That's someone who's lived past the age of 110. Dr. Denmark lived to the age of 114 years and 60 days when she died in 2014. At her death, she was the 5th oldest verified living person in the world and the 3rd oldest verified living person in the United States, and is one of the few supercentenarians in history to gain prominence in life for reasons other than just living an extraordinarily long time. Dr. Leila Denmark. This is the birthday of actor Clark Gable, born February 1st, 1901. He lived to the age of 59. And as I conducted this research, my goodness, I usually come a little farther along into the present, but we've covered a lot of material already. So I'm going to say that'll do it for us today. I hope you learned something you didn't know before. I know I sure did. I always do. As always, links to my research are included in the show notes. Also, remember that links to the playlist for my This Day in History series is included in the show notes, and it'll be up there in the iCards too, with the link to last year's episode for February 1st, once the live is complete and we go to replay. Thanks for watching. Remember to give it a like and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share this video with others. And again, I want to mention to let me know in the comments whether you would rather have mostly recorded episodes with titles, outtakes, and music, or mostly live versions like I'm doing today. The live versions, I don't have any way to put the words at the bottom, or there might be some way, but I haven't figured it out yet. Anyway, live or recorded, let me know what you think. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. And now we look for the thank you very much button right there.